I think that Kane, he's a smart guy and he's a magnificent player. He could go out and publicize unifying all of these related sports and get people back into where there's a rally and champion that. He's probably the only person that could do it.
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, it's flattering and humbling, someone of Charlie's, stature in racquetball to say something like that. I do put the same pressure on myself and have throughout my career to try to propel racquetball to the next level. I don't think I could solely do it alone, though. I think I need, it's power in numbers. And, I've always argued for the fact that our game is order of merit, and it always will be. And the number one player is always going to be the most important player. And I think that goes for every sport. That's something that an athlete works for. Every single athlete, even at this tournament right now, is working for. A lot of people thought that I was just doing it selfishly for myself and voicing my opinion, and I really wasn't. I want racquetball, to succeed. I hope that these young guys can make millions of dollars. And I felt in the past that some of these past players, and this may mean no disrespect, but almost like they didn't want that to happen for other people, and I can understand that too, as a competitor, to put your, time and sacrifice and everything and only make a minimum amount of money and then see the next generation make millions. Yeah, I could see how maybe, that would, maybe be a tough pill to swallow, but for me, it's not really a tough pill for me to swallow. I want to be a part of it, and I think that, in my last years of, before I got injured, I really voiced my opinion. I really stood up, and I didn't really have a lot of people backing me that mattered, like the players. And but I'm honored that Charlie would say something like that, and I did want to change it. And I don't want to be considered one of the greatest players ever to play in the demise of racquetball either. That doesn't really sit well with me either. So I'm willing to do whatever I can, and you see me here playing, and that's part of still torn Achilles, 41 years old. Could I move on to other things? Yeah, I could, but I still have this passion, I still have the heart for it, and I still think that I can make a difference. So, I'll continue doing what I'm doing and hopefully being a great ambassador for the sport and setting examples for the younger generation.
What do you think about pickleball versus racquetball, and why do you think they're demolishing courts still? Why do you think that's
Well, I think that racquetball's always done a great job of educating the already educated. A good example of that is if you go to a local club, you have tournament players and you have recreational players, but the recreational players don't have no idea about tournaments, they don't have anything, and I'm sure that they would play in some of them. So, we do a great job of, informing, the people that are in the bubble of racquetball about racquetball, but the problem that I think that we've always had is how do we bring people that don't know anything about racquetball, people that just play at the club and don't even go to tournaments? How do we get those people to become participants in tournaments as well? If you look at numbers, I don't know exactly what the number would be now, but I was told, once upon a time, maybe a few years ago, there was like 3.5 million people that played racquetball. I mean, compared to other big sports, is it a lot? No. Compared to our sport, it's a lot. So how do you use those? How do you create some sort of angle where you can get, let's just say there's 1 million people that play in tournaments. Well, how do we get the other, 2 million to just be interested in tournaments, be interested in racquetball, right? The rules of racquetball, where they're played. I mean, a lot of times, I'll go out and be like, oh, I play professional racquetball. Or I used to play back in the day. But it wasn't really necessarily as far as tournaments. It was just a popular game. So when you talk about pickleball is just a popular game. And, it's snowballed into now, celebrities are doing it. And it's really, it's turning into, I would say, probably the most popular sport right now currently. A lot of that has to do with marketing. And I think a lot of that has to do with everybody can play it. Not everybody can play racquetball. And I think that's kind of been, kind of a setback for us. The ball is fast. Not everybody can keep up with the speed of the ball, the sound in the court when you're hitting the ball. I can't take my kids to go play racquetball. I mean, I can, but it's not going to be fun for them. But I can take them to play pickleball, and it'll be fun for them. And so I just think that the way that pickleball is structured in the game itself, it's slower, and your talent, and I'm not really educated on pickleball, but from what I've seen, talent really evens out itself, and at the lower brackets when you get into pros and all that. I think that it's a little different, right? But I think that overall, it's you can have a 60-year-old man beating a 20-year-old guy in pickleball. That would never happen in racquetball. So it's a lot about marketing. It's a lot about creating value for these other players too. I created my value by barely losing, never losing, and always winning. I've done that by my winning. I haven't done that from the IRT marketing standpoint or anything like that. I've done where I sit right now in my popularity in racquetball is because I won. And I created that myself. And not to say that, my sponsors in the past hadn't created some of that, or even for that matter, the IRT. But for the most part, I did this because it was me winning. And so fortunate, unfortunate, fortunate that, I guess I got recognition. Unfortunate that it took me to win 14 years in a row to create that value, I guess. And even then, no one really wanted to separate myself from the other pros, even though I had already separated myself from the other pros. They thought that I should deserve the same thing as everyone else. And well, I disagreed because I was being specifically asked, for me at tournaments. And so that provides value. So, that's all through me winning, right? And so, no, but I really like to see racquetball, get to where it was in, the early 80s, somewhere in there. That would be nice. But again, it's not just going to take me. It's going to take a lot of people, power in numbers, and I'd be willing to do whatever I can.
Since there is money now in competitive pickleball, would you ever consider switching over?
I have. I've played a couple times, and don't get me wrong, it's a fun game to play. Right now, I don't know if I could sit here seriously and say that I'd wake up at 7 in the morning and go train pickleball like I did racquetball, and the effort, and if I was to ever do it, I would have to be on that same level mentally too as well. I don't think I could just go and have fun. I'd be fun obviously, but I just don't think I could just whatever. Like if I'm gonna do it, I want to put my all my time and hard work into that, and but then again, be honest, I don't have the same appreciation for pickleball, and that's not to say that I won't have an appreciation for pickleball, but I'm not educated about pickleball. And it's easier for me, and like I said earlier, it's easier for me to get educated in pickleball, and even me, who I'm not really on social media a lot, I'm still learning because it's out there to the masses, right? And now someone like me, who when it first came out, I kind of was like, yeah, okay, that's cool, I guess, right? A little naive, I guess, from the standpoint of what the game was about. Now I've played it a couple times. Now I have a little bit more interest, and that's what I meant about like with racquetball. You got to spark the interest, of somebody, and then because if someone that doesn't know anything about, racquetball, then what makes you think they're going to be interested in it? You have to educate them, and pickleball's done a great job of that.
I came into the scene long before you. I started playing in 1974. And then I kind of waned, towards the late 80s or what about the time maybe you were coming in. Could you tell me more about you as a kid? To me, you sort of came out of nowhere and suddenly you were like number one. What makes a person be able to do that? Were you really good in other sports first, or you had family that played racquetball?
Yeah, so I started playing racquetball when I was 2 years old. And I won my first tournament when I was like 5 or 6. My dad played, and it was just one of those things that was like a father-son thing to do. My dad was an open player. He wasn't a big-time, pro or anything like that. And I took a liking to it, and I also played hockey as well too. I played a pretty high level of hockey as well. So throughout the years, playing hockey and the discipline, and obviously skating, and everything that has to do with hockey, if you know about it, really did kind of transfer over to my racquetball, and racquetball did the same for my hockey. So, I just something that I loved. I never really, thought about it in any way of this is what I wanted to do, or I wanted to be number one in the world. And so maybe that was a benefit because I didn't have the pressure, maybe that some kids now have of, this is what I've got to be. I quit racquetball for a few years just to play hockey. Had a potential tryout for the NHL and went to my Canadian Nationals when I was 17 and ended up winning, and getting carded and putting on the Canadian national team. And at the time, my family didn't make a lot of money, so it was life-changing to have that $30,000, training money. So I didn't go to the tryout, and I continued to play racquetball, and I played Vegas, was my first pro tournament. I lost to Cliff 11-8 tiebreaker in the quarterfinals, and I beat Derek Robinson and Jack Husak, beat him, and what an experience on that court, the front wall, side wall, glass. And so I didn't really have a chance to kind of creep up on people, I think, because this is when Cliff was still really dominant. Who's a 17-year-old kid from Canada that just lost 11-8 tiebreaker to Cliff, So as far as the players, if you talk to the players back then, the top 8, I was no surprise. After that tournament, I was no surprise. When they saw me in the draw, they knew they had to play hard, and because you didn't do that with Cliff. A lot of people didn't do that with Cliff back in the day. He was so dominant, and so that's kind of where it kind of started. I went back and ended up getting a sponsorship after that and started playing the tour.
Why'd you move to Austin?
So racquetball. Just as I started playing the tour, 9/11 happened. And so traveling back and forth through Canada, to here just got a little bit more difficult. So I started taking the necessary steps to be able to stay down here. I used to have to travel back and forth. I could stay here 90 days, 24 hours, was all this. But it just got really hard after then, so I took the steps to get my permanent residency, and so that's what I did, and I've been down here ever since, 23 years, 24 years.
Do you miss Canada?
I do. I mean, I miss the weather sometimes. I like the snow every once in a while. Beautiful countryside, but we're in Colorado, and it feels like home here. I mean, I was in the mountains yesterday, and yeah, but I've grown out of that, that place. I mean, it's nice to go visit. I don't think I could ever go back and live there.
You have a bad boy reputation. Do you like that? What do you think contributes to it?
I mean, I think that there's a lot that goes towards, this bad boy image, right? You have guys that yell and scream. You have guys that carry themselves differently. But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter to me, whether I'm a bad boy or not. I don't really care at the end of the day. I just, at the end of my career, I just would, hope that people, understand that I respected my position. I honored my position. I did it the best that I could. I tried to honor the other number 1 players that came along, and just people know that I spoke from the heart and I was true. Other than that, I don't really care what people think.
Erica, who's with you now, someone said she was a former girlfriend, and you're back together. You seem really happy with her.
Yeah, we knew each other a long time ago, and it's life is weird. Life is weird how it happens sometimes, and it just happened, and it's not like we were looking or trying, or it just happened, and I think that's what makes it, I think, a little bit more special. And this is her first tournament, and I wish I would have done a little bit better, but on the flip side, we're able to go around and see and be together, and so it's a good time. I'm happy, and hopefully that'll also transcend to my racquetball, and being excited about playing again and training, and hopefully get back to number 1.
And what's your next tournament?
It'll be Eugene, Oregon. I'll be going to, so that'll be, I think, the end of the month here.
Very good. Well, I look forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I still have this passion, I still have the heart for it, and I still think that I can make a difference. The number 1 player is always going to be the most important player. I don't want to be considered one of the greatest players ever to play in the demise of racquetball.